So friends, Donald Trump's co-conspirator, Walt Nauta, finally made his way into federal court in Florida, pleaded not guilty, and he is now set for trial. Does that mean all bets are off regarding the possibility that Nauta might flip on Trump? Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, after a couple of false starts, Donald Trump's co-conspirator, co-defendant, and chief box mover, Walt Nauta, finally found himself a local Florida lawyer so he could finally appear in federal court in Florida and be arraigned on his indictment. Now, not surprisingly, Nauta pleaded not guilty, so he is now set for trial with the trial date yet to be determined, but he is set to go to trial together with his co-defendant, his co-conspirator, his man, Donald Trump. In recent days, I've heard the question asked, okay, now that Nauta has been indicted, pleaded not guilty, and he is set for trial, set to go to trial with his co-defendant, Donald Trump, does that mean that Nauta can't or won't flip on Trump? Not by a long shot, friends. And we'll turn our attention to that topic in a minute, but let's start with the recent reporting. This from CNN. Headline, Trump aide Walt Nauta pleads not guilty to charges of mishandling classified documents. And that article begins, Walt Nauta, an aide to former President Donald Trump, pleaded not guilty Thursday to multiple counts related to the mishandling of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, including several obstruction and concealment-related charges. The brief procedural hearing moves Nauta and Trump toward trial together in the historic case alleging mishandling of national security records and obstruction of justice. Trump is accused of illegally keeping classified documents from his presidency at his Mar-a-Lago resort, and Nauta is accused of helping him to hide those documents from the federal government. So friends, a logical next question is, has the window closed on Walt Nauta's opportunity to save himself, to accept responsibility for his own crimes, plead guilty, and agree to testify fully and truthfully about the crimes of others, most notably Donald Trump? And the answer is no. The window hasn't closed completely. There's still an opening. It may be narrowing somewhat, but there is still an opportunity for Walt Nauta to save himself, to do the right thing, and to testify about and against Donald Trump. So friends, let me take a few minutes talking about my experience trying to bring on board potential cooperating witnesses or potential cooperating defendants in the 30 years that I practiced as a federal prosecutor. So there were people that I was investigating. They sort of started out as witnesses, maybe they became subjects or targets of my grand jury investigation, but before I indicted anybody, we referred to them as witnesses. And there was a witness out there, often, that I knew had really important information about bigger criminal fish. And I wanted very much to convince them to become cooperating witnesses before they were ever indicted. And I might have them in for a proffer session and say, look, let me lay out some of the incriminating evidence and information we have against you. And, I am prepared to go into the grand jury and ask them to indict you for your crimes. But I would rather you come on board as a cooperating witness. You'll have to take responsibility for your own criminal conduct, but you'll get some benefit, maybe a reduced plea, maybe a reduced sentence, maybe probation, who knows. But if you agree to take responsibility for your crimes and you agree to testify fully, accurately, and truthfully about the crimes of others, particularly the bigger criminal fish, that is probably the best you can do for yourself. You will be, in a very real sense, saving yourself. And I would try to convince them to come on board as cooperating witnesses. And, even though sometimes I thought I was being persuasive, I couldn't always convince folks in that situation to come on board as cooperating witnesses. So the next step was to indict them for their crimes. That is precisely where Walt Nauta is right now. He's been indicted, he pleaded not guilty, and he is on the road to going to trial as a co-defendant, as a co-conspirator with a criminal former president of the United States, whose culpability is like this as compared to Walt Nauta's culpability. Yet, as of right now, Walt Nauta is holding fast. He's going to protect Donald Trump. He's going to go down with the SS Trump. Maybe. So the next thing I would ordinarily do, now that I had the grand jury indict the witness who refused to become a cooperator, I would step back to him or her with their lawyer, and I would say, now you're a defendant. Now you are heading toward trial. Now you are facing the very real prospect, if convicted, of spending years, perhaps decades, in prison. Then I would try to bring them on board as a cooperating defendant. So the same factors, the same motivators were still present for me. I still wanted to secure the evidence that this defendant could provide against bigger criminal fish. So I would, again, try to develop them as a cooperating defendant, have them plead guilty, and have them agree to testify truthfully about the crimes of others. Now, they may not get quite as much benefit for their bargain as if they had come on board earlier, before they were indicted. But, never say never when it comes to working with somebody who's willing to take responsibility for their own criminal activity and who agrees to testify truthfully, fully, and accurately about the crimes of another. Never say never. And let me tell you, I'm going to add this as a footnote here. There have even been times when a defendant told me, sorry, Mr. Kirshner, we're going to trial. We'd go to trial. I would do my best to convict that person, and I often did. More precisely, the jury often did. And then I would step back to the now convicted defendant who was pending sentencing. And I'd give him one last opportunity. I say, that window has now almost closed. We've gone through a trial. A jury has convicted you, and you're about to be sentenced, and you're about to go away. You want to cooperate now? And I will speak on your behalf at your sentencing, saying that better late than never, this defendant did try to make right what he and others did so very wrong when they were committing crimes together. And maybe you'll get a reduced sentence. So the window really never fully closes. Even after somebody's sentenced, sometimes you will step back to that person and offer to, for example, file a motion to reduce their sentence if they're willing to cooperate. This is a sliding scale. The earlier on you cooperate, the more you help law enforcement hold accountable others for their crimes, the more benefit you're going to get. The longer you take, you're going to get less benefit. But never say never, because it's always about vindicating the rights of victims, protecting the community, and holding bigger fish accountable, whenever that accountability might come. So Walt Nauta has now decided that he wasn't coming on board pre-indictment. Will he come on board post-indictment now that he's set for trial? We don't know, but I sure wouldn't rule it out. You know why, friends? Because before somebody's indicted, a prosecution is theoretical. It's not concrete. The person doesn't know for sure whether the grand jury will indict him. But once you get that indictment in your hands and you see your name on the wrong side of the V, United States of America versus Walt Nauta and Donald Trump, oh, that has a way of focusing one's attention, right? What was once theoretical is now concrete. You are going to trial. Frankly, given the evidence, just some of which has been publicly disclosed by Special Counsel Jack Smith in that indictment that was unsealed in Florida, makes it pretty clear that you will be convicted and you will go to prison, Walt. So seeing your name as a charged defendant on the wrong side of the V, it tends to get somebody's attention, has a way of focusing the mind. So if Walt Nauta's lawyers, and we're going to be talking more about them in the future, have Walt Nauta's best interests at heart rather than Donald Trump's best interests, and we have to assume they do because that is the sworn ethical obligation of a lawyer, to zealously represent your client and his or her interests, not the interests of the bigger criminal fish, the co-conspirator, the co-defendant, in this case Donald Trump. If Walt Nauta's lawyers have his best interests at heart, if they fulfill their ethical obligation, I have to believe that they are continuing to have discussions with the federal prosecutors, with Special Counsel Jack Smith's team, about the possibility of Walt Nauta cooperating, flipping, saving himself rather than going down with the SS Trump. You know, Walt, it's never too late to do the right thing. You reportedly were a military man. You are somebody who should know what it means to take that oath to protect and defend the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And it's pretty clear you fell down on the job. You lost your way. You violated that oath, but it's not too late. It's not too late. As I always tell my potential cooperating witnesses, you know, it's never too late to try to make right what you and others did wrong. So how about you choose another path? Because the path you have chosen thus far, Walt, has landed you precisely where you are, pending trial with a criminal former president of the United States. How about you make a change and you do the right thing? Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.